Okay, so there is classically someone mowing outside, which I feel like when I watch YouTube videos, I don't know, 1 in 5 of them, someone is like, I'm so sorry if my mic is picking that up, but, my neighbor decided to be a jerk today, and I guess I'm kind of having one of those moments where I'm like, they're mowing outside, but I don't think you can hear it, so should be fine. So yeah, I guess we're gonna persevere in spite of the mower. I hope you guys are excited for a sort of fallish video where I'm just trying out this painting and really working on, doing something I've never done before. I'm going to make sure to put up this sort of reference that I was using to help me come up with this composition and kind of go about the beginning of this painting. But all in all, it's all from my brain, and I'm pretty excited to sit down and chat just about the painting. I haven't really thought about if this particular video should have a theme, but maybe I'll come back here in 2 seconds and tell you that I've thought of a theme and I would like to chat about that throughout the video. So if seeing me kind of piece together this painting sounds like something you might enjoy, I'm Rory Fluent. Feel free to call me Rory. If you're new around here, hi, hello, how are you? Please feel free to let me know in the comments down below. I like to create dope art content and hopefully a chill atmosphere. And if you're not new around here, what is up, my dudes? Let's get into the video. So, as I am completing this video, I went ahead and checked the notes that I made, and I did have a topic that I wanted to talk about, and it was about being derivative, or feeling like your work is derivative of something. I have a VCD background, so basically a graphic design background, and we talked a lot about what it meant to be derivative, and the fact that there is, always going to be something that has inspired your work, but it's important to be able to differentiate between inspiration and copying. I absolutely fell in love with the promotional material for Cult of the Lamb, specifically the Cultist edition of the game. I thought that the way that this image in particular that's up on the screen right now looked, specifically in terms of composition and just, creating an atmosphere, and what an interesting angle to look at the frame of reference from. I just found a lot of pieces and parts in this image to be really inspiring, and I wanted to create something that sort of took the most inspiration out of anything from the composition of this work. But notice what I didn't do is copy the exact material, draw, some sort of version of the lamb, draw the exact same flowers, the same trees, or copy the art style in any way. The painting itself is completely mine, but I definitely think that you don't have to squint to notice that my composition is incredibly similar to the one on that painting, and that's because I am still learning how to, come up with compositions fully by myself. I have and will continue to push myself to do so, but I found specifically the composition really, really exciting and fun to look at in that particular piece, and I wanted to take a stab at that composition myself. So what I ended up coming up with was my own little lamb guy, just sitting there in this sort of pumpkin patchy field with a bunch of pumpkins around him. Lately, I've been really in the mood to continue to expand my, the things that I paint and the ways that I paint them. And so one of the things that I'm really trying to push myself to do is do larger paintings. And the size doesn't totally have to matter, because we all know, if you've watched my other videos, that, I cannot do much bigger than an 8.5 by 11 without just totally fucking it all up, and I have no idea why. But this painting is an 8.5 by 11, and I found the size totally manageable, and I had a lot of fun painting this, even though currently I am doing just about every painting idea that I have in Procreate, because I am getting a lot more enjoyment out of my sketches than out of the paintings that I do in my sketchbook. But that isn't to say, as I just mentioned, I really like this piece. I think I like the way it turned out. It kind of doesn't feel like my style, but it is my style. It's kind of confusing. I guess you guys will, see at the end of the video what I mean. I feel like there are bits and pieces of it that look a little bit more refined than I would normally draw, and I don't know why it ended up like that. Not that I don't like it. Again, it's just one of those things where I look at it and I'm like, did I really do that? But going back to what I was originally saying about this idea of being derivative, it is totally fine and really helpful to take inspiration from anything and everything around you. I get inspiration from movie posters, from dedicated books of art, from design books, from tapestries and typography. I mean, there's so much in the world to look at and to gather inspiration from, and that is not an issue at all. It just has to come from a place, what you end up creating has to come from a place that is your own, and you have to use it as purely inspiration. And I know that scares a lot of people, like, I don't know, this idea that you might too heavily rely on references or I hear that a lot in terms of like drawing people and anatomy, and just like you need references to get a person's anatomy correct so that you can then be able to draw it on your own, you have to do the same thing for landscapes and composition. You have to practice, and the best way to practice is to find, in this video, for example, a composition that you enjoy and to try to make that your own. And I know I've been, drawing and sketching for like a decade now, so it comes so easily to me. And then my degree was all about iterating and taking an idea and a concept and then beating it to death and figuring out exactly what you wanted to do and having meticulous, detailed plans that go into your design and the way that you're going to implement illustration within designs. But on top of all of that, I always had references. Normally, they were a hodgepodge of God knows what, but every little thing that I put on this mood board, which is what I would do when I have a design problem, which is what I do when I have a design problem to solve. I make a mood board. I piece together a collage of the things that are inspiring me that I find may be helpful as I am iterating on the topic and trying to find a design solution. And this mood board is something that guides me and helps me to have a starting point that I may not end up with something that is even remotely similar to the mood board, but it helped me begin, it helped me learn, it helped me start. And specifically when it comes to illustration, it is incredibly helpful. It is the only way to learn and grow. Referencing references and referencing what you find inspirational and learning how to take away from the things that you find the most joy out of looking at, and learning how to take and piece together from each little thing to create what will hopefully become your style. And excluding having a style exploration, currently in the video, I am exploring landscape and larger paintings and having more subjects in a painting and just more content going on overall than just a sketch on a page. And so to do that, I needed a starting point, and that starting point was the Cult of the Lamb promotional material. One of the things that I really want to work on and start finding and focusing references for is lighting. I feel like lighting is definitely my weak point at the moment, where I just don't know a lot about it, don't really know how to draw it. I've never tried, and I've never found references that made any sense to me. And so I'm going to try very, very hard to compile some references and really focus on what the lighting means in a painting or a sketch and where it's coming from, and my shadows and my lights and darks. Another huge thing that I think personally goes into using references and why people should not be afraid to use and rely on references, especially when just starting out, is the fact that those references, the things that you are deriving inspiration from, do not have to be copied to capture the magic that is a part of them. And I'm hopeful that this is an example of, showing someone the difference between what would be directly copying versus what I've done, which is taking inspiration and having a starting point. And that's excluding the fact that I am also using this as something to learn from. I studied that image, I pieced it apart, I took it apart, and I put little pieces of it into this composition and into this painting so that I could figure out how to begin. Because honestly, if I tried to do this on my own, I wouldn't have been able to. I had to find some sort of reference that could give me that jumping off point so that I could create what I wanted to create. And I do know that I happen to be able to do that and to be aware of my art in a way that allows me to be able to understand what it looks like to copy versus what it looks like to just derive inspiration from. And so I know that it's taken a lot of practice and a lot of years. And then, obviously my degree helped a great deal in being able to work out what is mine and what is someone else's, and what is taking what someone else has created and using it to help me come up with a different idea. So, for example, in my degree, I might be given, a design problem that was like, create pet food packaging. And I might go onto Pinterest and go online, and I might happen to know that this brand is super themed around pumpkins. I don't know, whatever. And so I might not look at pet food brands. In fact, I would actively not look at pet food brands when I'm first starting out. And I would go into all kinds of other sources. Let's say that I just type in pumpkins into Pinterest, and there's these pumpkin snacks, and I love the typography that's a part of this brand, so maybe I'll pull from that. And maybe there's another item that I see, like a book cover, that has absolutely nothing to do with pumpkins, but I just absolutely adore the composition, or I adore the colors that they used. And so I will just cultivate this mass of things and items and other people's creations that I love and think would just be so cool to be able to fit into this design problem. And then I will take that and I will start sketching and iterating and figuring out what I want to actually use from these references, what I don't need to use at all, and what will become my final piece. Being derivative, however, is about taking a look at a poster and keeping the composition, keeping the color story, keeping the size of the poster, keeping the theme. If it's about women's reproductive health, then you decide to make a poster about women's reproductive health that is also pink and purple, and also has a black cutout silhouette of a uterus, and also, has a tagline of some sort that is written in the same blocky slab serif font. You can't do that. That is derivative. And I feel like that is what people should be afraid of being. But being afraid of references and taking inspiration from the world around you and the things that people have created in it, I don't think anyone should ever be afraid of that. Especially if they're using it to learn. But even if you're using it to create a piece of your own, and again, unless it is very directly copied in some way, that was simply a starting point for you. That was a starting point for me. And I don't know, I wouldn't have been able to make this piece if I had not seen that image. And there's nothing wrong with that. Young artists, I feel like they are oftentimes swamped with all of these opinions about using references and not using references and finding their style, and always use references. There's nothing that will ever be wrong with that. If you're afraid of not being able to, draw a person's anatomy correctly, use a reference. Compile 7 references. Take a photo of yourself. And, you don't have to be able to draw a person without a reference. That doesn't make you any less skilled of an artist. I am not less skilled because I was not confident in my ability to draw a landscape purely on my own. However, in terms of landscapes and foreground, background, and middle grounds, I specifically painted this so that I can get better, because I want to be able to create my own compositions with a foreground, a middle ground, and a background without any issues and without having to look something up. But that doesn't mean that I might find a landscape painting that someone did with a beautiful composition 10 years later, 10 years from now. And I may go, you know what? I know how to draw, landscapes. I know how to figure out these parts of a composition, but I love this composition and I want to see what I can do with it. I just don't think that there could ever really be something wrong with that, as long as you're not crossing that line. And that is a judgment call that you as an artist have to be, self-aware enough of yourself and your art to be able to make. I wouldn't be posting anything that I felt was too derivative of someone else's work, especially without citing that artist. But personally, I just think that that can be a dangerous game, and so you have to be confident in the differences that you are choosing to put into your paintings and your pieces and sketches. And if you're going to show them on the internet and you're going to post them, you need to be able to understand the difference between what is going to be derivative and directly copied and what is going to be inspired by something else. And I suppose I do want to clarify that the word derivative does not mean copied for anyone who doesn't know that. Derivative simply means born out of something else. And so if something is too derivative, it's almost like a scale, then it could be copied. But my painting is a little bit derivative of the Cult of the Lamb painting because I took inspiration from it. But on the scale of how derivative is it, it is very much not derivative. I hope that made sense. That was probably not like the best worded, and I'm not necessarily trying to be a super expert on any of this, but that's what I learned in my degree, and I'm also sharing kind of what I've learned through my own experiences using references and not using references. And hopefully it was a little bit helpful. And if not that, maybe a little bit insightful. Focusing on what I'm actually painting for a moment, I am using watercolor, gouache. Eventually you'll see me crack out my Copic markers, and I'm really just trying to understand how to make the very farthest back points look like they are very far away without making them look unfinished. The foreground and the middle ground, especially on those pumpkins, has so much detail. Oh my god, excuse me. And I was trying to kind of see if the contrast of lack of detail as you get farther and farther into the background is a helpful way of insinuating to the viewer that it is farther back in the background. Those trees are not as in focus, not as detailed, because they are farther away from the viewer and from the eye. I'm not sure if that ends up coming through, but it was something that I was trying out. I start to feel a little bit through the painting like the pumpkins are just too rendered and everything else looks very much flat in comparison. I'm not totally sure that that's like actually what's happening, but I don't know, like the texture on the pumpkins was just reading as a little bit too jarring and not necessarily like a juxtaposition to the flats of the bushes and of the lamb/sheep thing. It wasn't really a juxtaposition that I thought was helping the painting. But per usual, as I, start to line everything and really just crisp up the edges of the little pumpkins and the trees, I start to feel a lot better about this piece. I truly believe in the power of a very good brush pen. It can really help you just achieve anything in the art world anyways. I end up not falling in love with the loose grass strokes, so I end up kind of giving them a little bit of shape and outlining them a bit with the Tombow brush pen just to, give them sort of an encasing. They were kind of the only thing that was just on the page without line work, and I felt like they stuck out in a way that wasn't my favorite, especially at the time. So eventually I go in and I kind of give them some shape, and I think I even add, right now in the video, I end up adding another set of bushes just to kind of give the sort of floating bush mound in the background a little bit more structure and a little bit more layering. Hopefully it adds a little bit more visual interest because that was the goal. taking a good look at it, I decide, fuck it, I'm gonna try and, you know, paint some clouds in the background, make sure that the sky actually looks like sky. I definitely think it worked. I really liked it. And overall, I don't know. I wasn't like, I don't not like the piece. I just kind of have a hard time believing that I made it. I don't necessarily feel like it totally embodies my style, but I am like, I think it's good. I don't know, it sort of confuses me. And just like that, the painting is finished, I guess. Like I said, I'm a little confused by it, but I don't dislike it at all. I hope that you guys, you know, got something kind of cool to take away from the video. I'm trying to make them a little bit more thematic and to have a topic that I can kind of talk to death until the end of my, the end of the content. So thank you so much for sticking around if you have stuck around this long, and hopefully I'll get to talk to you in the next one. Bye!